Hi guys, I hope you can hear me as always. Nice to see you. I'm waiting like 1 or 2 minutes so that we can start right on time, because today we have a lot to talk about and it's getting a little bit complicated, just warning you. Can you guys hear me well? Like, am I audible and clear and all of that? Hi. Can you give me a thumbs up if I'm audible, Vandana? Please. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Ati. Got it. All right. I'm a little bit nervous because today is a little bit of a deeper dig into like a very broad topic, but it is not to take away the, excitement, but in the end, what I'm gonna tell you is to feed your dog and your cat fish, and then mental health is also figured out. All right, guys, let's get serious, I would say. I have my notes over here, so I'll be looking at the to my left and to your right, I think, a little bit. Please forgive me, I just don't want to miss out on anything. So, I will talk today about mental health and what it means if your dog's or your cat's behavior changes in general. And then I'll make some connections to what is going on inside the body and how we can, take tests and benchmarks that we get from seeing our animals, how can we connect them to food and then help them heal themselves. So there are a bunch of indicators and benchmarks that kind of help us understand in what kind of a state of mind our pets are. It's not just one thing, like you should, in best case, never look at your cat or dog's behavior just isolated. It's always a bigger picture. Like, if digestion is poor or they have a tummy ache, then yes, that's one indicator that maybe something is wrong with the stomach. But at the same time, it could be an indicator that something else is happening. Maybe they're just sad because, let's say maybe your house help went on leave for a couple of days and it's not that big a deal to you, but maybe for your pet it does have an influence. So there's different reasons that can be there, and there should be always a wholesome kind of a view at your pet's behavior that allows you to read them, to get to know them better, and to ultimately make both of you more relaxed. Because when you are able to, read your pet, read your companion, then it'll be easier for you to act when it's needed and to stay calm when it's needed to stay calm, basically. So mental health is kind of a big, wide and open topic, and there's many factors playing crucial roles, because there can obviously be a million reasons for why a pet is feeling a certain way or why anybody is feeling any kind of way. I'll be trying to talk about the underlying chemical processes in the body a little bit and how nutrition can help these processes function well as I'll address a couple of behavioral issues or other reasons for your pet's mood to be off. So the conclusion why I think it's always mostly about the food is that, whatever you feed your animal or yourself or, whatever you eat, that is what the fuel for the body is. Like, it needs to get the building blocks for whatever process the body is going through. It needs to get it from the food it's getting. So just like, a bone can't be built without proper calcium supply, a car cannot run without gasoline supply, the same way the brain and the nervous system, and in consequence, of course, the hormonal glands, they all also need the right fuel to work, and the fuel it's always the food. So let's talk about the basics. What does mentally healthy or happy mean? You know, we can talk about how to get there, but we also need to know what is it actually that we are thriving for. And I kind of figured there are 2 lines along which we can measure or benchmark our pets' kind of moods. And one is obviously the behavior. That behavior will always give us a genuine look into our pet's world. They don't, act, and they don't try to hide emotions. So behavior always, of course, an indicator for how the animal is feeling. Then the other benchmark is a more definite one. It is basically just the lab tests, the blood work, and very important with behavioral issues, the thyroid should be checked. So once you get that checked and then you might find an issue, that's when you can get back to food, and then you can try to heal the underlying issue by feeding better and by giving the right nutrient balances and the right complex nutrition that your pet needs to fix this underlying issue. So how do I know whether my own pet is healthy? That's a question that, the only thing I can encourage you to do is trust your gut. Every animal is different, every living being is different. So some pets might be more quirky, others might be more like sleepy kind of types. There is no ultimate benchmark. It is just about compare your pet to how your pet behaved earlier. And if you see a difference, then there's something to look at. But it's not about comparing to other animals or listening to what people think your pet should be like. So what I would take as a guideline basically is that if you see some behavioral changes in your dog or cat, give it a day or 2. Everybody can have off days. And then if you see it, not getting better, then go and maybe get some tests done, take those tests back and then assess them, think about it. Don't immediately jump to action, just, step by step, try to figure out what is going on in your pet's body so that you then ultimately can make the right decisions how to heal it, whether you want to go for medication, whether you want to go for a different diet, whatever it is. I see one question, why are dogs not eating these days? I think because it's very hot. It's just the weather has a big influence on mood as well. I mean, it does for me for sure. So anyway, if you do consider that, yes, your pet is not the way that they usually are and it's, concerning you, then a very important thing to do, which might be tricky, but is really crucial, is to stay calm. Because your animals, they know how you feel. Like our pets know exactly what we're feeling right now. So if you are worried about them and you approach them with hesitance or apprehension, they will get that vibe. They will know something is wrong. So there's a possibility that if you think or if you assume that your pet is not doing well, that you give them a vibe that they then mirror and make you think that they are off when they actually are perfectly fine. Same goes for food, by the way. If you try new food and you're really apprehensive about it, don't try it, because you will give your dog or your cat the vibe and they won't want to eat it. So just make sure to stay calm and be aware of the message that you are sending your pet. Along these lines, I would also like to quickly talk about another behavioral thing, separation anxiety. That is another issue that can become quite traumatic for parents and dogs, even though you can work through it quite easily, I would say. And if you just stay calm and, stay consistent also. A dog just instinctively, they don't want to be separated from the pack. So when you leave the house, of course they're nervous because you are the one who provides them food. You are the one who is the pack leader in the best case in their eyes. So they do not want to be separated from you. They want to be with you at all times. to be sure that they are safe. So when you're going, like, you're asking for a lot of trust from your dog to just be like, okay, cool, I'll be alone here in this house that I cannot leave on my own, and I'm just gonna trust that you make it back and give me my food and, you know, be there for me. So when you're expecting all of this, then it makes a lot of sense to take the fear out of it by, and this goes for basically any kind of behavioral issue or behavioral, you know, anxiety that is triggered by something. It can be, you know, whether it's barking at the doorbell, whether it's food aggression, separation anxiety, whatever issue there is that triggers a dog, you can kind of just desensitize the trigger by rewarding no reactions to short exposure to the trigger. Say the separation anxiety. You could just, if your dog is very, very anxious when you leave, just do your normal routine of getting ready, but then don't leave the house and just be like, why are you making a fuss? Like, this is silly. And, you know, after some time, maybe they won't get nervous when you're getting ready. So then, as a next step, you just open the door, you close it, you open it, you close it. If there's no reaction, you give a treat or something. You know, just like make it kind of less scary and less of a big step and just work your way to everything. Just like with the diet, just, you know, try to get to things by going slow and steady rather than making sudden changes. Chews, of course, can also help with separation anxiety. For cats, it's the same processes. Like, you just need to make sure that something is not huge and scary, you know? It's not, I'm having you all weekend on my lap and then on Monday I'll be gone for 12 hours at the office and some drinks after. Like, that's not cool. So you just, you know, you start by just taking the trash down and maybe spending 2 more minutes waiting outside the door, showing them, like, see, for these 5 minutes you made a fuss, come on, it's not that big a deal. And then once they realize it's all not that big a deal, then you can increase the times. And that is for everything, like, a basic logic that seems to work quite well. And, you know, our pets are quite smart, so they get it, you know. They just need to be shown, and then they're fine usually. Let's get to a little bit more of the background of the mental health and food thing. So we all know that we get kind of what we call hangry when we don't get anything to eat when we're hungry, right? So there are different ways that this can kind of establish itself. So it's either long-term nutrient lack, which causes a kind of basic hangriness at all times, and then the immediate hunger when you just need a snack right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the chemical part now. So when blood sugar drops, the body will try to bring it back up. For that, it will pump out adrenaline or epinephrine, but we know it usually by the name adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone that, among other things, tells the liver to manufacture more glucose, which is blood sugar. So when your blood sugar drops, adrenaline is released, which makes for higher blood sugar amounts, okay? Adrenaline also increases the heart rate, elevates blood pressure, like, it's just an energy boost. Am I still here? Okay. Adrenaline is basically just a huge energy booster. So, like, we're getting pumped, right, with adrenaline. So that's basically what happens when you get really hungry and your blood sugar drops. You get a push of adrenaline and your heart will start racing, you're energized. As another consequence of this adrenaline release, another hormone is released as well, and this is cortisol. Cortisol is an important hormone that is responsible for the metabolization of glucose. So cortisol is needed to actually make use of the blood sugar that was just released because of the adrenaline. Okay, so the chain again, it's blood sugar drops, adrenaline gets made and released. Sorry, I keep on disappearing, I guess. So, okay, one more time, the chain. It starts with the blood sugar dropping, then adrenaline being released to tell the liver, thinking I should turn Wi-Fi off. I'm not sure. Try a little bit longer. So anyway, the point where we're at is that adrenaline is released, blood sugar levels get higher by the cortisol release that metabolizes and makes use of this blood sugar. So we're getting pumped up because of these two hormones that are released in response to dropping blood sugars. So to keep these hormones balanced and keep them from bursting and boosting, which obviously is not desirable, when your dog eats it or your cat eats, it matters a lot what they eat, so that they prevent themselves, so that the food prevent them from excessive bursts of these blood sugars. You want a balanced level kind of blood sugar at most times for a balanced kind of hormonal chemical balance in the brain. So the food you give your pet obviously is broken down into proteins, and then those again are broken down into amino acids in the body and the digestive process. To avoid sudden spikes in blood sugar, the key is to feed food that nourishes your pets in the body evenly and for long amounts of time. Some foods tend to make blood sugar spike suddenly and then also drop suddenly a short time later, which then will cause the whole reaction of adrenaline and cortisol being released, and this in bursts obviously. So a way to figure out what foods will keep these bursts from happening, even if you don't feed a lot of small meals but you just feed a big meal, you make sure that the food has a low glycemic index. A glycemic index indicates how fast the body can turn the components of the food into blood sugar. So obviously the higher the glycemic index is, the quicker and the higher the blood sugar of your pet will spike, calling again for adrenaline and cortisol release to regulate this level of blood sugar. And that is excessive, of course, for the hormonal balance. So high glycemic foods include, of course, simple sugars, processed foods, any kind of carbs like bread, grains, pasta, rice, potatoes, of course, kibble and other kind of processed foods. Low glycemic foods include, of course, high quality protein. Proteins from animal sources are more complete. They have more amino acids in them. This makes them easier to digest for our dogs and cats. If you are feeding your dog or cat grains or processed foods, they are incomplete sources of amino acids, and that will cause a plethora of issues, again, long term. So in conclusion, feeding a poor diet that's low in meat will make your pet's blood sugar spike and drop, which will cause their hormonal balance to be off because of the excessive release of adrenaline and cortisol. So let's talk about another chemical that is really important for the mood. This one is serotonin. That's another chemical in the brain that has a huge impact on whether we are feeling calm or whether we're feeling anxious. Eating foods that contain the amino acid that is needed to manufacture serotonin is an easy way to get yourself feeling calmer, or in this case, get your pet feeling calmer. The amino acid that we need to make serotonin is called tryptophan. This is an amino acid building block that will help to build serotonin. And serotonin, again, is a major neurotransmitter in the brain and in the central nervous system, of course, which influences the mood and sleep significantly, which has been proven in studies for dogs as well as for cats and for humans as well. Low levels of serotonin are usually in combination with increased mental health problems, behavioral abnormalities, and high levels of serotonin will just make for a calmer kind of person or dog or cat. So there's another little bit of complication with the serotonin. It's a little bit similar to what happens when pets have renal issues. They, sorry, I read the comments. Like when pets have renal issues, they're often recommended to lower the protein intake in the diet, which is absolutely not the right way to go. And in this case, when serotonin is low, it's the same case. Often a lower protein intake will be advised. So that is not going to work. The reason that this is advised is that the vets, traditional medicine will say that if you feed high protein, then there's many amino acids, many nutrients trying to bind to enzymes and get transported to the brain and, get to work. And in order to make sure that the tryptophan can bind and the serotonin will be manufactured, in order to achieve that, it would be good to feed lesser total amino acids and nutrients. That will never help heal. That is not a very logical thing to do. Instead of weakening the field, I think it's important to strengthen the field and to specifically feed foods rich in tryptophan, which are, for example, eggs, then fish. Turkey is also good. My number one choice would be fish, not only because it's so hot right now, but also because fish is not only rich in tryptophan, then it's also rich in omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. They have vitamins B12 and B6. All of these nutrients contribute to, kind of metabolizing, making the best out of the tryptophan. So fish is a great way to just get an all-in-one package to help your dog or your cat feel better. Another thing, no real talk without gut talk. Let's talk about the gut at this point, because actually about 90% of the serotonin in the body is in the gut as well. The gut is just insanely important in anything that's connected to our pet's health. And often if, we give our pets antidepressants or any other medication, it will absolutely crush the microbiome in the gut, which causes a plethora of issues. So the gut microbiome is just a word for all the different kinds of bacteria and organisms that live inside your pet's body. So these are obviously the most bacteria are always in the digestive tract, because that's where the most work for them is. The gut microbiome is important in mental health for many reasons. The bacteria in the microbiome play a very dynamic role in the entire body state, and an imbalance of bacteria can mean that vital nutrients are either stolen by bad bacteria or that they're just not even manufactured. And the activity of certain bacteria, bad bacteria in the gut, when they metabolize stuff, when they do their work, there are certain bacteria who can emit toxins in this process. So these toxins will go into your pet's body and as byproducts of the metabolic process of the bad bacteria. And these can again mess with the hormonal balance in the brain, because there's chemicals in there that should not be in the body. So making sure that the microbiome is So making sure that the microbiome is healthy, which means feeding the good bacteria in the stomach, is a really, really big part of mental health and everything else concerning our pets' bodies and health. So let's talk about, if you decide to actually make the jump and feed better and, address these issues with food and naturally, then there can be transition issues. There can be certain issues happening, like bile puking, or when you introduce new foods or you introduce a new diet, then do not this is annoying with the connection. Anyway, thanks for bearing with us, me. Okay, we're back, I guess. So while you're transitioning your pet to a better diet or introducing new stuff, there can be issues popping up. These can be for different reasons, but the most obvious ones would be, for example, the detoxing phase. The body gets better and new and great fuel to work. So now it's trying to obviously push out all the old stuff and only get like this new stuff into every process. So they will be pushing out toxins. The body will be able to work better and more efficient. So there will be a lot of kind of change happening. So that can turn into rashes on the skin. It can be loosies or even discharge, because the body's just pushing stuff out in every way possible. At the same time, this can also drain your dog or your cat, make them feel tired or low or look like they're kind of battling something, because they are battling something. They are, exchanging all processes and getting better and learning how to, nourish themselves with the new food and adapt to it. So don't jump to conclusions too quick in these issues. When you do know there's a reason that this behavior happened, then go back and think the reason, like how big is it? Is this, an expectable, this reaction or something? So again, stay calm and be aware. For medication. So there's another big issue. I mean, as always, I'm not in favor of medication. So I'm not in favor of medication usually, but I'll tell you another reason here, another example in connection to the hormonal balance in the body and to the glands, why it is just crucial to address the underlying issue and not medicate against the symptom. So medication medication does have an immediate effect, and food does not. It can take a long time for food to show all its benefits and to get everything working, but then it stays, then long term your pet will be healthy. Whereas with medication you might get the results really quick, but the second that you take the medication away, then all the effects will be gone as well, and that is not desirable, because that means the underlying issue is still there. All right. Furthermore, medication, especially antibiotics, ruin the gut microbiome as they kill all the bacteria, and it's just so much more disadvantage than advantage in most cases to give antibiotics. So I told you about another example for a really bad idea to medicate, and that is when a pet's cholesterol, so blood fat, is too high. Cholesterol is an important nutrient for our pets differently than for us, but in fact, of course, there are diseases that cause elevated or too high cholesterol values in the blood. These often get treated by just medicating against the cholesterol. So the cholesterol is too high, and you only get that one step, and you immediately medicate against the cholesterol instead of finding out why is the cholesterol high. So then these medications will inhibit the cholesterol to be manufactured in high amounts, and it will drop. But the moment that you stop the medication, the cortisol will go up again because the cholesterol will go up again because the underlying issue is still there. For instance, most of the time, actually, elevated cholesterol levels in dogs and cats are a sign for diseases that are in connection to the hormonal glands. So often, or most often, it's actually the thyroid gland. So for instance, hypothyroidism, which means too little production of hypothyroidism, which means too little production of the thyroid hormone, can decrease the level of an enzyme that is responsible for dissolving fats in the blood. So therefore, hypothyroidism can lead to elevated cholesterol levels. If you now medicate against the cholesterol level, the thyroid still ain't working, and that's still gonna cause problems. So going back and feeding a diet that will heal the thyroid would be much more needed than any anti-cholesterol medication. The same thing goes for diabetes, where, you know, there's too little insulin made. That also reduces the fat absorption. Cushing's disease is another example where often, you know, the underlying issues don't get treated, and which can also result in high blood cholesterol. Even kidney diseases sometimes can show symptoms of high cholesterol. So it's very important to take a very close look at what could actually be happening and not just jump in and medicate at the first turn. Then I think I'm trying to be a little quicker because the connection is so suckish. I would say let's talk about more real life behavioral stuff, which is a little bit more fun than the chemical side, which I hope was understandable even though the little interruptions. So behaviorally, dogs want to be stimulated mentally, and so do cats. Like there's, just like all of us, thank you, just like all of us, our animals also want a purpose in life, you know. It's not desirable to just be sleeping on, I'll answer your questions. I'll just say one more sentence and then I'll go read the questions. So anyway, give your dog some purpose, give your cat something to chew, something to hunt, you know, just get them involved. Make sure that food time takes a little bit longer, that it's not just, you know, the same old bowl every day. Like make it a little bit more fun, freeze something, make a popsicle, give a raw bone, give some dehydrated treats, get some texture, make them, you know, do a trick for their food, or there's so many ways to make things a little bit more exciting. You can, when you get treats, you can hide them, or you can wrap them in like paper or something and let your dogs and cats tear through stuff. There's lots of small ways to just make every day a little bit more happy, and then, you know, along with some changes in the diet, you can sure make changes to you if your dog or cat seems. So let me conclude one last time. I'm going to try to summarize everything. So summarizing, just make sure that when you do realize a behavioral change in your pets, try to first stay calm, figure out, are there any changes that could be the reason for this? Then you can go, you know, examine those reasons that you think are possible, and then if there is an actual underlying issue which you can see because the lab tests showed you something's off, then again assess the diet, assess the whole body, and try to figure out what the actual underlying issue is under all. So then you can go and change the diet a bit and tweak it to make sure that it's the perfect diet for your pet. So now let me quickly scroll up and find your questions. Here we are. I'm not drinking water. Try to put something yummy in the water, you know. You can use any of the Canin India powders, for example, or you can, you know, just make flavored yummy water. Bone broth can also help in getting them to drink a little more. Yeah, then Salva was saying a good hunt means a good tummy means good mental health. Well, I mean, yeah, of course, if you're mentally stimulated, you get to scavenge and you get a fresh catch and you get to eat it, and of course that's like a really cool thing. I mean, I guess that's what we're trying to copy with our dogs, like, and our cats, of course. We're trying to feed them as natural as possible. We're trying to play with them to give them that sensation of playing and hunting. So yeah. Then American Bully Fatima. For chipping teeth and the likes, it's not about the size of the bone so much. It's about the hardness, and it's about whether your dog is a heavy chewer or whether they do take their time and gnaw things down slowly. If your bully, I mean, that's a very strong breed, and I'm sure he could cause harm to his teeth by biting too hard if he's a very aggressive chewer. If he is a good chewer that takes it slow and all, then I don't think there's any issue with a big bone. But it's always good to stay on the safe side and monitor. And you can also hold the bone at the back of the jaw to make sure that he doesn't gobble and rather gnaws it down and then gets the benefits and also the happy hormones, and then hopefully sticks with gnawing slowly. I will save this kind of a mess of interruptions of a life. Cycle explanation. I will put up a blog so that you can. Okay, I'm turning my. Alright, I turned my Wi-Fi off. Alright, so what kind of meat protein should we give? Well, it's always good to go for any kind of meat protein that's of high quality, that is human grade. Always make sure that the food you feed, whether it's veg or meat based, always make sure that it's sourced as ethically and naturally as possible, because any kind of insects, the spray that they have against insects and other toxins and whatnot, they are on vegetables that are not organic, and they make it harder to get any nutrition from them. Plus, it's just better to go all natural. Same goes for the meat that you feed. It's very important to make sure that the animals were fed a healthy diet that are going into the meat, because if the animal wasn't healthy and happy, then how can it give the right kind of hormonal balance and chemicals to our dogs and our cats and the food? So whatever protein you can source that is of good quality, where it's an ethical sourcing, that's what I would go for. And of course, now in this heat, try to go for some cooling proteins like fish, duck, rabbit, pork, emu, whatever you can find. What bones can we give cats? So I have heard a lot of cats that are not too interested in doing some hard chewing work. So I think for cats, unless you have one that really likes to chew, it's always a good idea to just get some really meaty but a little bit harder treats. So maybe the beef cubes or pork fillet cubes or emu or any kind of like meaty, juicy treats that for cats are still kind of like big and they have to kind of work through. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Or you could go for rabbit bites or duck bites, which have really tiny bones inside and a good ratio of meat to bone for them. Okay, yeah. If a pet is not interested in a treat or something that you give them, it's always a nice idea to play with it, or to make it more interesting by reintroducing it, or by including it into a routine. If you include it in the food routine, then there's a better chance that they might take to it. Just don't give up too quick. Change the texture. Some new things are not always favorites right away, and it sometimes just takes a moment. Well, what to feed dogs if we can't afford raw feed? I think you can always work around your budget. Like it's a little bit of more effort if you invest less money, of course, like with everything in life, I guess. But you can feed a good diet with not a lot of money, and see if you had a butcher or you had some sort of access to chicken, mutton and fish, then you can base your diet on that, and you don't have to get the most expensive body parts, because let's be honest, the more like for us icky or creepy body parts are the most nutritious anyway for our pets. So you could make bone broth from, maybe if you go to the fish market and you can get some tails or cartilage or whatever, whatever they would maybe dump, maybe you can get that and make some fish broth from it, and then you have some nutrition. You could do the same with chicken feet or chicken heads. If you don't want to feed them raw, you can always make a broth out of them, and they are probably possible to buy at a very cheap rate. So you could even include stuff from Canada and India, the cow skin chew combo pack. will probably last you for 3 months and is like 1.2k. Like, that gives you a lot of chewing and toothbrushing and saves you vet costs. So I think there's always a way. You just have to try to make it work for your own situation and all of that. Yeah, so for a cat with the high cholesterol and triglycerides elevated, it's crucial to get them off kibble. Like, it's really important, because otherwise the underlying issues won't heal. So I think it's very important to maybe get some stuff from Canine India and see if it makes her more interested. You know, you can mix it at first, or play with stuff, just try to get there. It would be really a good idea. Emu can be considered a cooling meat. It's got omega-3. It's a very good thing to feed in the summer. Okay. Wait, there's a questions tab. Oh, I did not know that. I'm such a grandma. Okay. What about general anxiety that a dog is born with? Well, I think that's, if it's a pure behavioral thing, then I think that you can definitely work on that by, maybe very slowly, but step by step, addressing all the triggers that you know, just going step by step. Whatever upsets your dog, you would try and address it slowly, and just exposing them to things, not shying away from the outside world because you think, oh, they're already shy, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. I think pushing yourself to do new things with them and getting them confident is what you can do there. Sorry, I need to read this. How to adapt the meals. Well, lowering of cholesterol cats. The balancing of meats, or what I would suggest in rotations of meat is, again, it's about the pet itself and about where you are and what the weather is like, what your pet's activity levels are like, and whatnot. Here in Chennai, it's extremely hot, as you can see in my sweating. I'm not feeding any chicken at this point to my dogs because, as we know, that's a warming protein and they really don't need any of that right now. So I'm focusing on a lot of pork and fish right now. If you live in a colder climate, that's different. We can't take them out for as many walks right now as we would like to because it's just so hot, it doesn't make sense. So we feed leaner than usual. It's just about the situation right now and how to make sure that they get the right nutrition, but they're not getting fat or are not able to beat the heat. That's a fun one. Which stuff from CI should I try first? Now I don't know. I see a kitty cat picture, so I think cats usually really, really like organ meats. I mean, it's great for them because the taurine that's essential for cats is a lot on high amounts in poultry offal, poultry hearts especially. So actually, I would probably go for any kind of organ meat, maybe duck liver or rabbit liver, something like that. Depends also on the overall diet of the pet, of course. If you already feed certain things, then you don't need to get them from us. Or, what I would do is probably whatever you're already feeding, get something that's a little bit similar but a little bit different from the shop. If you already feed chicken breast, maybe get some chicken liver. If you already feed chicken liver and breast, then maybe get some duck bites. Just, kind of try to make it as much variety and nutritious as possible. Okay. I think if there are... Okay. Garlic is great. Not for cats, but for dogs, garlic is a perfect mosquito repellent, bug repellent, anti-tick thing. So for him, I would say... if you have tick issues right now, then I would say go for about 10 days, one fresh garlic clove every single day with a meal. And if you don't have any issues, then I would usually do maybe every other day 1 garlic clove for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then you should be good for a while. Sorry. Yeah, of course. Like, that's what I meant to say before. If you're not in the right state of mind, then your pets probably won't be. Like, if I'm agitated, then my dogs will most likely be a little bit tense or something, you know. They mirror our emotions, so if you have an issue, then it's always in a good way, or in a way that helps your pets to be better if you feel better. They want you to be happy, and you know, a harmonious person, a calm person is just easier to be with. And dogs or cats are not trying to understand and read our emotions and see where we're coming from, so we have to put it that plain. It's just easier when your person is very stable, as we can't explain why we do certain things, you know. If you get angry and you throw something, you're not going to be able to explain to your pet afterwards, hey, that wasn't meant at you, like, I'm sorry. All they get is like disruption and chaos, so, you know, it's best to be as calm as possible. Bandana, yes, give me a second. Where's bandana? Sorry, I'm scrolling around. A general health checkup. Well, I would say it's... Coco, please. Sorry, there's some cows outside the gate. For general health checkup, I would say once a year is plenty. You know, if there are absolutely no indicators, I think every 2 years is fine as well. It's about what you feel comfortable with, and it's about how well you know your dog and what's going on, or your cat. I think that the tests that that you should get done, in my opinion, are a little bit dependent on if there are any issues. Of course, if you have anything that's coming up, anything that you want to get checked out, of course you should get that tested. But I think always a good idea is the blood work, of course, because it just shows you like an overview that, you know, is not diagnosed yet, so you actually can make your own picture out of it and can compare to your diet and whatnot. And then I think every couple of years the thyroid is also a good kind of indicator to get checked, just to see if the glands are working well. Because most other things you'll see, you'll see most things that are off, you'll get an indicator anyway in some shape or form. But the most important thing is, after you get the tests done and all of that, don't go and medicate stuff and think, okay, so I'll see you then next time that I get tests done. Like, do not go and medicate. Just if you see something is not right in the tests, then go and try to make it better with the diet before you face any issues with that. Sardines are cooling. Then about the CBD oil, I think it's a good thing to do if your dog gets I'm not sure about cats, but if your pet gets very anxious, then I have no issues with CBD oil. It's 100,000% for sure, a million times better than any antidepressant could ever be. So I say go for CBD. Just wait, CBD, not THC. Make sure. Anyway, guys, I think in order to save this, and in order to spare you any more disruptions with my connection, I think if there are no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this and save it, and apologize one more time for the connection issues. I hope that things got clear. I am going to write a blog today after this and then put it up on the website so that you guys can go and read up on the things that might have not been very clear. Oh, thank you. No, we have great neighbors now, actually. We have a very friendly wine shop next door. No, so fish, there are no heaty fish. I've seen graphics where certain fish were called warming and stuff, but I have never seen any scientific explanation for it. The way we approach cooling is if it's good, if it's anti-inflammatory, that's what it is. It's lean. There are no heaty fish. There are fish that are better and worse for several reasons, but there's no hot fish. It's only cool fish. Let me know. Also, if there's any topics that you would like me to talk about next time when I get my connection figured out. So angry at that, by the way. I'm gonna start blabbing. Just send me suggestions if you ever have any ideas what I should do for the real talk, not like in general with life. And then I hope I'll see you all soon. I hope you guys all checked out our White Duck range on the shop, because there are a lot of specials around that I think are very cool. So I want you to look at them, please. Have a great evening. Thank you for the attention, and sorry for the issues. And it's Canadian, it's a homemade brand. Coco just needed to chime in. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. Bye bye, guys.